Thank you very much for this invitation and for the nice introduction from Lorenzo. Today I will bring you to the beautiful world of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action postdoctoral grants. I prepared a presentation of about 45 minutes, and there will be a number of links that I invite you then to see after. To check after. I think that it is nice if your microphone is muted because we are recording. The presentation will be available after the webinar and will be provided by Lorenzo. And of course, the question and answer function in case of problems. So just a few words about myself. As Lorenzo said, I am a Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Officer at Politecnico di Torino since 2014. I am also Open Science Officer for my division, which is the Research, Technology Transfer and Innovation Division at Politecnico di Torino. Before being officer for these grants in Politecnico di Torino, I've been I have a background as a biologist. I was a biomolecular biologist. Then I worked pretty long time on life cycle assessment, in particular on green labeling of products, with many experience in communication and in communication of sustainability. So I have a very heterogeneous background, which is very useful for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. My role here is to introduce you this call. I am not a national contact point. I am not a national reference. I work for Politecnico di Torino and I support proposal that choose Politecnico di Torino as a host organization, just to be clear. Let's talk about the call. And to talk about the call, the postdoctoral fellowship call, I need you to tell you about this wonderful lady, Marie Skłodowska-Curie. She was an excellent researcher. She moved to France from Poland at the beginning of the last century for obtaining her PhD. And by now, she's the only woman with 2 Nobel Prizes, one in physics and one in chemistry. But more than that, the impact of the work of this beautiful lady is still actual now. So she was for sure an excellent researcher. And this is the reason why in the European Programme for Funding Research Innovation since more than 25 years, the actions dedicated to the excellence of researchers and to the mobility of researchers are dedicated to this young lady, Marie Skłodowska-Curie, therefore the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action. In Horizon Europe, we have a program for research innovation that will cover 2021 until 2027. And for these 7 years, the budget dedicated to Marie Skłodowska-Curie action is the one that you see in this slide. Of course, is the total budget for 5 different kinds of actions of Marie Skłodowska-Curie. And today we will see the postdoctoral fellowship. The postdoctoral fellowship action, Marie Curie action, is one step of the ideal excellent researcher career from the point of view of the European Commission. At the level of the European Commission, there is a number of tools to support the research career according to the level of the career. So as you can see, during the period being a student, there is the Erasmus funding. For the PhD obtaining, there is the doctoral network in the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action. Then there is the postdoctoral fellowship, which is an individual action that might or should or will support and enhance your career, in particular if you are looking for an academic career, which might pass through an ERC grant. This ideal career is not mandatory, is the ideal path, and is to show you that for each stage of the research career from the European Commission, there is a tool for funding your research. And today we talk about the postdoctoral fellowship Marie Curie action. The goal of the postdoctoral fellowship is to enhance the creative and innovative potential of researchers holding a PhD wishing to acquire new skills through advanced training and international, interdisciplinary, intersectoral mobility while implementing excellent research. If you will prepare your proposal on this postdoctoral fellowship grant, always bear in mind this goal. The goal of the European Commission in funding your proposal is that you gain a creative, innovative potential and approach to the science that you are expert of. You should have, of course, already a PhD because it's a postdoctoral fellowship, and you must want to acquire new skills through advanced training and through mobility, intersectoral, interdisciplinary mobility. So the postdoctoral fellowship is an opportunity for you as a researcher to implement an original and personalized excellent research project. Is an individual kind of proposal, and the approach is bottom up. It means that all sectors of research are eligible for funding. The transnational mobility is mandatory, so they often say that a postdoc of the Marie Curie is someone with the I missed the word. You need to travel, you need to move from your home country. Training through research is the heart of this kind of opportunity, because it is the opportunity for you to implement a research program which is ambitious, which is innovative, while acquiring new training skills, both in research and in transferable skills. The project is implemented together with a supervisor from the host institution of your choice, and the working employment conditions are very, very attractive. As you can see here, there is approximately 68,000 euros a year gross as a salary. Of course, this is before taxes, and taxes change from one country to another. This is the salary you start from, but then according to the nation in which your host institution is located, the taxation could change. In the postdoctoral fellowship, of course, you are invited to develop your talents, to advance in research, and to promote the international, interdisciplinary, and intersectoral mobility. The international aspect of this grant is that you actually move from your country to another one, so it's by itself international. But it is also very important that you think about the interdisciplinary and intersectoral aspects of your research. From the European Commission, it is very relevant if different disciplines start to work together, touch each other in order to develop new research fields and pathways. And also from the intersectoral point of view, from the European Commission, it is very important that postdoctoral fellows are able to work with other sector of not only the academic sector. To better understand, here is the difference between academic and non-academic sector within the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. Academic sector is everything that award academic degrees or has research as a primary mission of his activity. As an example, higher education establishments such as a university, or public or private no-profit research organization like CNRS in France or CNR in Italy, and some international European organization. Everything that is not into this definition of academic sector is the other sector. So any entity that is not included in the academic sector definition promotes the intersectoriality of your proposal. And the other sector, the non-academic sector, can be any field of future workplaces for researchers, and can be a company, an industry, a small medium enterprises, a business, a government, civil society organization, NGOs, cultural institutions like museums or hospitals or charity organization. The meaning is that the more in your research program you are able to work together with any of these non-academic sector, the better for your research program, but also for the benefit of the European society and economy. The other two words that are very important in these postdoctoral fellowship grants are excellence and mobility. Excellence regards the fact that the research project has to be original and personalized, with a strong collaboration with your host organization, of course, but for example, with other non-academic sector or other academic sector, according to which is relevant for your field. Excellence in the transfer of knowledge and in the way you transfer your knowledge. Or excellence in the research innovation methodologies or in the training for researchers in terms of new skills and competencies. And also it has to be excellent from the point of view of supervision and career guidance provided by the host institution of your choice. The physical mobility is mandatory and requires that the researchers move from another country in order to acquire new knowledge, skills, competencies, and develop the research career. It is important to understand who is who in this grant. We were saying that this kind of grant, the postdoctoral fellowship, is an individual grant in which you have the researcher, the postdoc researcher, which is the researchers that at the date of the call deadline is in possession of a doctoral degree or has successfully defended his doctoral thesis, even if the doctoral degree has not yet been awarded. The supervisor is the scientific responsible of the host institution of your choice, and the postdoc and the supervisor work together on the proposal preparation. Of course, the postdoc researcher writes most of the proposal, but it is very important that you assure that your supervisor is aligned and informed and work on the final draft of your proposal. The beneficiary is the host organization that will receive the funding and will manage the funding under the scientific responsibility of the supervisor to implement the research program prepared by the postdoc. There is also the role of the associated partner. The associated partner are entities which participate in the action, but do not charge cost or claim contribution. They contribute to the implementation of the action without signing the grant agreement. And we will shortly see that this can be very helpful. In terms of eligibility, a postdoc can present a postdoctoral fellowship if he is in possession of the degree or has successfully defended the thesis at the date of the call deadline. This year, the call deadline is the 13th of September at 5 o'clock European time. The second eligibility criterion is that once you have obtained your PhD, you have 8 years of research experience in order to present your postdoc fellowship. If you have more than 8 years in research after your PhD, you are not eligible anymore for this call. Remark that years outside research or career breaks, such as parental leave, do not count up to these 8 years. This means that, for example, you've been working in research for 2 years, then you've been working in a customer service in a company for 3 years, and then you go back to research. Well, the 3 years outside research do not count for the 8 years maximum after PhD. And here we come to the postdoctoral fellowship typologies. In this call, there are two typologies of postdoctoral fellowship: the European postdoctoral fellowship and the global postdoctoral fellowship. The European postdoctoral fellowship is an opportunity open to researchers of any nationality coming from any part of the world wishing to come to Europe to acquire new skills, new competencies within the premises of a host institution in Europe under the supervision of a researcher, of a supervisor in Europe. The duration of the European postdoctoral fellowship can be between 12 and 24 months, and the location is in Europe. This is why it is called European postdoctoral fellowship. The European Postdoctoral Fellowship fund the mobility of researchers in Europe to researchers of any nationality, and the places in Europe in which it can take place are both member states and associated countries. And we will see in few slides the list of the associated countries. The call budget of this year is 221 million euros. And here we have in the box the third eligibility criterion. Eligible applicants for European postdoctoral fellowship must not have resided or carried out their main activity, such as work or studies, for more than 12 months in the last 36 months preceding the call deadline in the beneficiary's country. For example, you want to spend your European postdoctoral fellowship in Germany. If you want to go to Germany, you have to demonstrate that you have not spent more than 12 months in the last 36 months in Germany. This is the mobility rule for the European postdoctoral fellowship. The other typology is the global postdoctoral fellowship. The global is an opportunity open to European nationals, not any nationality, but only European nationals, and long-term residents. Long-term residence means a period of legal and continuous residence within Europe member states and associated countries of at least 5 consecutive years. In case you are a long-term resident in Europe, I warmly invite you to put yourself in contact with the host organization of your choice and double check that the long-term residence of yourself is accepted by your host organization. In the global postdoctoral fellowship, the mobility happens in 2 steps. The first step is the outgoing phase, which happens outside the European countries. And it happens at the premises of an associated partner, which can be everywhere in the world except that member state and the associated countries. The second part of the global fellowship is the incoming period. The incoming period has to be long 12 months, and it happens at the beneficiary premises. So if you are wishing to go for a global postdoctoral fellowship, be ready to spend up to 2 years outside Europe and then 1 year back in the beneficiary premises for a total of up to 3 years. So the Global Postdoctoral Fellowship is a mobility of researchers outside Europe. The first 1 or 2 years are spent in a non-associated third country, such as Australia, South America, United States, or so on, followed by a mandatory return period of 1 year at the host organization based in Europe in a member state or in an associated country. So the total duration can be between 2 and 3 years. As you can see, the call budget is 39.7 million euros, and the mobility rule, which is mandatory for this call, is applied to the outgoing phase country. So, for example, if you're wishing to go for a global postdoctoral fellowship in United States, you are eligible if you have not resided or carried out your main activity for more than 12 months in the last 36 months preceding the call deadline in United States. So in the European Postdoctoral Fellowship, the mobility rule apply to the host organization. In the Global Postdoctoral Fellowship, the mobility rule apply to the outgoing phase. In any case, it's an eligibility criterion which has to be taken very much in account. Here you have the list of the associated countries to Horizon Europe. So the countries in which you can go for a European fellowship, for example, are those that are member states of Europe and or these associated countries that are listed here. As you can see, United Kingdom is orange because by now the agreements between UK and Europe has not yet been settled down. So it is eligible, but if UK does not sign the agreements for Horizon Europe by the time of your grant, then you have to double check with your supervisor in United Kingdom if they have at national level in United Kingdom other systems to provide grants to your research program. On the contrary, Switzerland by now is a third country because Switzerland does not have signed any kind of agreements by now with Horizon Europe. So if you wish to go for a global fellowship, for example, in Switzerland, yes, you are eligible and it is a global fellowship in that case. And if you wish to go for a European in Switzerland, please double check with your supervisor because in Switzerland they have specific funding for this kind of postdoctoral fellowship that are not Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, but they are more or less the same in terms of grants and activities. A few words about the supervision. The supervision of your scientific responsible is taken very much in account in all the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. And this is why by the beginning of Horizon Europe, these guidelines on supervision were published by the European Commission. And I warmly invite you and your supervisor to read this document that you can download from the link and take very seriously into account the indication that are provided in this document, which is a 5 pages document, so it's pretty much feasible the reading. A few words about the secondment. If you are in a European postdoctoral fellowship or in a global postdoctoral fellowship, you might wish to go for a secondment. For example, your postdoc happens at the host organization, which is an academic host organization, and you wish to combine a secondment at the premises of a non-academic organization in order to enhance the intersectorality or interdisciplinarity of your research program. You can choose to add a secondment or more than one secondment to your proposal as long as it is meaningful and relevant. It is not mandatory to add a secondment. It is an option, and this option has to be meaningful and relevant for your research program. And as these projects are individual projects, there's no rule. If it is meaningful for you, then you discuss it with your supervisor. If it is not meaningful for you to go for a secondment, then discuss it with your supervisor and don't choose it. In case you choose to go for a secondment, remember that your secondment can happen worldwide and the duration has to be 1/3 of the European postdoctoral fellowship. For example, 24 months of European postdoctoral fellowship, so 1/3 is 8 months. And 1/3 of the outgoing phase of the Global Postdoctoral Fellowship. So again, if the Global Postdoctoral Fellowship outgoing phase lasts 24 months, 1/3 is again 8 months of secondment. Another opportunity that is enhanced in Horizon Europe is the non-academic placement. The non-academic placement is the will of the European Commission to enhance and to create bridges between academic and non-academic sector. So the non-academic placement is something that happens at the end of the postdoctoral fellowship duration, either European or global, and is an additional 6 months funded by the European Commission to allow researchers to spend up to 6 months in a non-academic organization, which has to be based in the European member states or in the Horizon Europe associated countries. The non-academic placement takes place at the end of the fellowship, and it is an additional opportunity, is not mandatory. It has to be an opportunity, meaningful and feasible for your individual research program. Then we move to the training through research. Training through research is very relevant in this kind of fellowship, and you have to define a training that implement both research skills training and transferable skills training, such as skills such as innovation, entrepreneurship, IPR, communication in public engagement, citizen science, and it depends, open science practices, such as open access to publication and fair data management. Here you have the transferable skills for Marie Skłodowska-Curie action from the work program. As you can see, you have a nice organization of many different transferable skills that can be helpful for you to choose and to understand what you need to implement and to acquire as transferable skills during your postdoctoral fellowship. There are many links like that. Here is the one from the work program. And then I need you to spend some few words about the cross-cutting aspects of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action. So we have seen by now all the rules of the game for the call, postdoctoral fellowship, but there are some cross-cutting aspects that are as well relevant. The first one is open science, which is by now the new normal in Horizon Europe. Open science is a policy priority for the European Commission and is by now the standard method of working under Research Innovation Funding Program, because it improves quality, efficiency, and the responsiveness of research. The rule in open science is that results has to be as open as possible or as close as necessary if you think that your research program might bring to some licensing or patenting or exploitation of the research results that you want to implement. Here you have a nice link in which you have all the information about open science. I warmly invite you to take time to understand how open science is developing in your specific field. Another priority at the European level is the European Green Deal, as well as the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 development goals. It can be a very good idea if you can relate your research program objectives to the Green Deal and or the Sustainable Development Goals. And to this link, you can find roadmaps and documents and information in order to be very precise and accurate in giving this kind of information. The Green Deal is very important at European level, and from the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, so for all the actions of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie, there is a Green Charter for which you have a number of information that are stated in this document. And I invite you to take time to read these 4 or 6 pages documents in which you have a number of suggestions to implement sustainability in your project, and take time again with your supervisor and with your host institution to understand how you can implement sustainability in your proposal. Another aspect that is very important, and it is a cross-cutting aspect, is the integration of the gender dimension in research. Gender dimension in research means the gender relevance in the research program. So it is from the point of view of the research innovation process. It is not only the gender balance, so the number of female and male actors working in the research, but is actually the integration of the dimension of gender or diversity aspects in the research. Here you have some main information, and here you have some questions that might help you to understand the kind of examples that the European Commission is expecting from you, and some useful links that I invite you to see after this webinar. And then we move to the evaluation criteria and to the online application of the postdoc fellowship. If you are applying for a postdoctoral fellowship, it might be that it's the first time that you apply for an individual project of your own. So I really invite you to keep calm and begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind is this: the evaluation criteria of your proposal. These are the evaluation criteria of the postdoctoral fellowship call, and these criteria are reported in the template, and you are invited to prepare your proposal according to these evaluation criteria. I invite you to take time to read them carefully, to discuss them with your supervisor, and to keep in mind that excellence, as you can see, counts for 50% of the score. But if you work only on excellence and you don't work on impact, which accounts for 30%, implementation for 20%, you might have a beautiful, excellent scientific part, but then you will get a very low score in impact implementation, and the overall score will be not sufficient to pass the hurdle. So my suggestion is that you take time to understand each criterion that is here reported, and for each of them, using the template, you start to fill with the information that you want to spend in that paragraph. And then before you start the writing, you discuss with your supervisor and with your host organization what you are about to write and to state for each of these 3 evaluation criteria. The evaluation panels are 8: chemistry, social science and humanities, economic science, information science and engineering, environment and geoscience, life science, mathematics and physics. And basically there will be 2 rankings, one for the European and one for the global. The application form is one part is made online, and when you prepare your application form, you must spend special attention in the selection of the descriptor and the free keywords. This is something that you have to do at the beginning together with your supervisor according to the evaluation criteria. So discuss together with your supervisor which descriptors and which free keywords truly address your research program. The participation happens by the funding and tender portal. The structure of the proposal is in 2 parts. There is one part which is web-based, and it is generated by the IT system. You enter information directly on the portal, and the portal directly updates information, and you save and it updates. And then there is the part B, which is the narrative of your project. Take time to prepare your part B of the narrative of the proposal, which is the one that implement the 3 evaluation criteria that we have just seen, because you have a page limit. The page limit is 10 pages, and I assure you that those 3 excellence impact implementation criteria and the paragraph that you are required to fill, and the limit of 10 pages is very challenging. So be prepared to work hard on your proposal. The financial support is total is 100%. And here you can see that the financial support is calculated on fixed unit per month. Here in blue, you see the researcher unit person months for the researcher. Basically, the living allowance and the mobility allowance build the salary of the researchers before taxes. Then after taxes, it changes from one country to the other. The family allowance has to be due. You can actually acquire a family status during the implementation of your project. And if this happens, you just communicate to the European Commission, and starting from the moment the family allowance is due to your project, you will receive it as well. In orange, you have the institutional unit contribution, again in euros person per month. In the first column, you have the contribution for research, training, and networking. Is 1,000 per month. So, for example, in a European fellowship lasting 24 months, it will be 24,000 euros. This is your money to implement the research program that you want to implement. And the other management and indirect contribution is the contribution that will be of the host organization for the support and the managing of your proposal. I get close to the end. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit late. I will hurry up. This is a very important slide. Please work together with your supervisor. You are the postdoc. You will write the project. You will do most of the job, but do take time to discuss with your supervisor, consider plenty of time for writing, and work ahead before the deadlines, because you need time to support interactions with the supervisor and with the host organization of your choice. As I said, every item has to be written very careful because every part of the score counts. If you are not funded, but your proposal scores 85 or more, you will be awarded with the Seal of Excellence, which is a quality label of the European Commission to award excellence ideas that are worth of funding, but do not receive funding because there is a limit of budget. This is the more and more relevant because at national level, there are tools to award the Seal of Excellence. For example, in Italy, last year in summer, we had a call for Seal of Excellence that were not awarded by the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions grant. On the contrary, if your proposal scores less than 70, then you cannot resubmit in the following year the same proposal. You have to change the host organization and or the associated partner. These are the deadlines of the Horizon Postdoctoral Fellowship calls 2023 and 2024. You will close the call will close in September. Then there will be evaluation until February of the following year. You will receive the information about the granting between February and March. And then starting from the notification of the funding of your proposal, you have a window that goes from April 24 to September 25 for the call 2023 in order to start your proposal, because the European Commission is aware that you are a professional in research and you might need time to finish your actual research program before you start the Marie Skłodowska-Curie postdoctoral fellowship. This is a very, very, very useful slide in which you have all the useful links for the preparation of your proposal. Please go through it very accurately. Take time to understand the guide for applicants, the template of the postdoctoral fellowship. And the last one can be very useful is a not official but a very useful handbook for postdoctoral fellowship call 2023. So this is everything for the presentation of the call. I ask you another 4 minutes just to present you my organization, my university, Politecnico di Torino, in case you might think next year, this year, in the future, to come to Politecnico di Torino for a postdoctoral fellowship. Politecnico di Torino is an Italian university, is a technical university based in the northwest of Italy, in the region of Piedmont. It was funded in 1859 as a technical school for engineers, then became the Italian Industry Museum, then the Royal Polytechnic of Politecnico di Torino. And from 1958, we are the Politecnico di Torino, based in the campus. And in 2019, we celebrated 160 years of polytechnic culture. Here you have Politecnico at a glance. Here in the link, you will have an amount of numbers, facts and figures about our university. As you can see, we have about 36,000 students for 158 professors and researchers. We have 20% of our students that are international, and we are ranked pretty well for engineering and technology and for architecture. But here in the link, you will see all the details. Our university is organized in 11 departments that covers 4 main areas: the industrial engineering area, the information technology area, the engineering and management and mathematics for engineering, and then the civil, environmental, architecture, urban planning and design area. And all these is available at the link of our university. Historically, our university has a very strong link with the industrial ecosystem and the local companies, with a number of partnership agreements that last over years. And here is the performance of Politecnico di Torino for postdoctoral fellowship, both in Horizon 2020 and in Horizon Europe. In Horizon 2020, which lasted from 2014 to 2020, the 7 years, we obtained 6 global fellowship and 13 European fellowship for a total of 19 projects. In the first 2 years of Horizon Europe, so it's only 2 years of funding, we have already 3 global fellowship and 6 European fellowship. We are already getting close to the results of Horizon Europe. So by now we are pretty much satisfied with our results. I also highlight the results in terms of Seal of Excellence. As you can see, in the 7 years of Horizon 2020, we obtained 18 Seals of Excellence. In Horizon Europe, only in the first 2 years of the 7 years of Horizon Europe, we have obtained already 15 Seal of Excellence. This means that the quality of our proposal is increasing, and we are pretty much satisfied with the performance of Politecnico di Torino in terms of postdoctoral fellowship. Here is our page and our leaflet to attract candidates to Politecnico di Torino. This page, of course, is a link that you can browse and see. The support is offered in terms of info day, question and answer session, in-depth webinars, on-demand support, and proposal review service. In case you wish to apply with Politecnico di Torino, here you have all the information. And this is all by now for me. I invite you to surf our page on the postdoctoral fellowship if you're interested in Politecnico di Torino. I thank you again for your attention, and I wish you the best of luck in your career. Thank you very much. Are you still there, or I'm lost? No, you're still there? So, yes, so I'm finished by now. So Daniele, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very detailed overview what you gave with a lot of information that actually I didn't even have back then when I started mine. So I think from that perspective, the audience today starts already with some advantage, we can say. I take my PowerPoint. Okay, you should have it. You should see it. Please let me know. Similar to Sara, to Sara's presentation. Okay, yeah. So in case there are questions or problems with the presentation, let me know. But also, especially for questions, I think, or maybe yeah, we can do the question later because I think I have problems as well in seeing who raises the hand and so on. So. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Daniele Fiscaletti. I am assistant professor at the University of Delft. I'm now at the Department of Maritime and Transport Technology for the Faculty of Mechanical, Maritime and Materials Engineering, so 3ME. I did my Marie Curie fellowship at the Faculty of Aerospace Engineering, also here at Delft. Well, let's have a look a bit at my past history, career, let's say. So I did my PhD here at Delft after studying automotive engineering at the University of Modena. And working 1 year in a firefighting engineering company. So I started in 2011, 5 years of PhD. Then I moved to University of Southampton to work with Professor Ganapati Subramani, who is an expert in turbulent boundary layers and coherent structures in turbulence. Then I moved to the University of Bristol to work there as a lecturer. So I stayed less than 3 years. When I was at Bristol, I wrote my proposal for a Marie Curie fellowship, and it was awarded. So then I moved to Delft, where I stayed for 2 years, as I said, at Aerospace as a Marie Curie fellow, and then I got the position now at Delft. Actually, I notice now there is a mistake here, so I didn't change this. There you go. So I started in October 2022. Okay, so a little bit of an overview of my project, which I wrote as I was in when I was in Bristol, and it was actually my second attempt. The first time I also wrote a Marie Curie proposal was when I was at the University of Southampton, and it was not awarded, although I was in the, if I can remember well, in the top 33%, because you will also receive in the evaluation the percentile, so at which your proposal scored. So the first time I got the seal of excellence, like Sara said before, but I didn't get awarded. And the second time I treasured the experience of the first. And that's why I, in the title of this talk today, I speak about experience with an S at the end in brackets, because I think I also know other people who wrote more than just one, and they didn't get both. Typically, the second time goes better, but we will go to that later. So first, an overview on the proposal, so the project actually. So the short how is it called, the code, let's say, I picked, yes.
Sorry, maybe, I don't know if it is only my problem, but okay, now I see the slide because it wasn't refreshing.
Okay.
But they are not full screen.
Yeah, it did.
No, now no, but they were. Now yes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now
perfect.
yes.
I think there is maybe a bit of delay, could be, but it was a full screen before. So the acronym, typically they ask you to provide an acronym. In my case, I decided to use Anacleto, which is, I think you all know, the owl from the Sword in the Stone, the film from Walt Disney. And I think in England it's called, in other countries it's called Archimedes, if I'm not wrong, but in Italy it's called Anacleto. And the reason why I gave this acronym or code to my project was because I essentially came up with the idea of using bio-inspired treatments inspired by the feathers of the owl to reduce noise in especially trailing edge noise, with possible application for the wind energy, the aviation, the rotorcraft, and the turbo machinery. So wherever you have an airfoil, the strongest source of noise interacting with the free stream is trailing edge noise. Okay, so the idea was to, because the owl is one of the most silent predator in the nature kind, let's say, kingdom. So the idea was to use the shape of the feathers to develop passive techniques to mitigate this source of noise, which is the trailing edge noise. Okay, so you can see here some previous studies showing the structures of the feathers. I mean, the idea is not completely new. Other people also did similar works. The novelty lies more in the type of geometry that I studied and in the approach that I propose to apply. So some results already. So which is normal that I have because the project is finished. I'm still in the process of publishing some work. So here on the left, you can see finlet fences. These are these geometries that have the purpose of attenuating the noise produced by the interaction between the turbulent flow and the trailing edge. In particular, the idea is to attenuate the wall pressure fluctuations in proximity to the trailing edge and to reduce the span-wise coherence of the turbulent structures. I believe, given that you are familiar with the wind energy science, I think some of you, I know what I'm talking about, maybe more than others, but in general, you have a background in aerodynamics. So here I used Lattice-Boltzmann software to study the problem on the left, and on the right, because it was a little bit more complex to mesh the geometry around these other type of passive treatments, I used experimental techniques. So these are inserts that we did through 3D printing. And we positioned in a model of an airfoil in the last part, in the last 20% of the chord. And we studied different geometries. So we varied the parameters, some geometrical parameters, such as the spacing, which you can see there, and also the height of these rails. These are, are a little bit different concepts. So they don't enable for the tunneling of the flow, which the fillet fences do. And here you can see a PIV image. So I study the flow with the particle image velocimetry and also with an array of microphone to determine where the source of noise is. So if you know more about this, you can certainly contact me, and yeah, I can give you further details on this. Okay, so this was a bit of an overview of the project, actually the successful one. The successful, I didn't prepare anything, but it also dates back to 2016, so it's been already a while since I wrote it. Okay, so after this, I would like to share with you my personal experience in the writing. So first in the conceptualization, the preparation, and then the writing, the revision of the material, and then the submission. So I call this slide the pathway to proposal writing. So I think the first step is to have clear in mind who are the superstar in the field of research that you want to attack. Okay, and these possibly should be your supervisors. Okay, so this is extremely important because it's one of the criterion that the evaluation board uses. So choose a superstar in a prestigious institute. Who is a superstar? A superstar is a person that has already, typically a full professor. This goes against my interest because I'm assistant professor, so technically I'm also possibly, I can act as a supervisor, but typically what I recommend people to do is to go for people, for potential supervisors that are full professors and in prestigious institutes. So, a criterion to determine who is a superstar is first that it has to be a full professor, or at least close to that. Even associate is good, but close to becoming. And then has to be a person that is particularly successful with proposals, and particularly with proposals from European Union. Okay. And maybe that as one of the proposal on one of the projects that Sara mentioned before, for instance, the European, the starting grant from the ERC or the consolidator grant and so on. You have to approach them very early, and typically either they are in your network already, or conferences can offer a good opportunity to talk to them and to expose to them the idea that you want to try to engage with such a project. And then, like Sara also mentioned, you should start very early. At least to conceive the project and the idea of writing, you should start 4 months before the deadline, in my opinion. And you should consider at least 6 weeks full time to the writing, only to the writing and to the reviewing. Because if you want to submit something that takes less time than this, then you run the risk of jeopardizing and undermining your chances of success. Again, this is based on personal experience. Another important step is to read as many successful and also unsuccessful proposals as you can, including the assessment that the candidate received. Okay, so try to use all the instruments and tools that you have here. For instance, there are offices that maybe can share, maybe, or I think even better, try to go directly to the candidates, to people that already submitted something and in previous years, and maybe got awarded, maybe not. It's not important. Try to read what they wrote, because this is experience that you can gain very quickly, and just relying on the effort of other people in a way, no? So you can leverage what other people have already done. And this is, I think this comes with a very big help. So after you have a draft, so you start to write. Typically, 10 pages is not long. So you will see you have to make a selection of at some point on where to cut and how to reorganize your proposal, because you will for sure go beyond the limit. It's very easy to do that. There are lots of things to write, lots of information to give in a very concise way, and it's easy to go beyond the limit. So, well, this I will discuss in the next slide, but let's focus on this next step. Once you have a draft, try to approach colleagues with the proposal experience and make them read your proposal. Okay, this includes also people from what is typically called valorization center. At least here in Delft, it's called valorization center. In Italy, it's called ufficio bandi. Whatever. These are the offices in which there are project managers like Sara. These people have a huge amount of experience. They've already seen lots of proposals, some of them awarded, some of them not. They can tell you where are the weak points of your proposal and where you have further work to do. So it's particularly important to approach these people sufficiently early, and you can do that only if you have a draft. So if you come up with a draft sufficiently early, these people have the time to help you. If you show them your draft 10 days before the deadline, most probably these people are already busy and they will give you some superficial advice because maybe they have not the time to help you. And yeah, eventually it's not good. So very important, start early also for this reason. And then once you have a set of advice from colleagues, peers, other people, either from the academic world or from the project management world, then you try to implement, but the advice is also not to implement everything. So try to critically really look at their advice and think, is this advice gonna help the improvement of the proposal? Does it make it stronger? Does it clarify the point? Sometimes you are just convinced of what you've done, and typically the best, I mean, if you are convinced about something and you thought about it twice, just go on your way. That's my advice. But typically a good 60–70% of the advice you receive is good, is valuable. So try to implement it. Okay, so tips on the content and styles. So the project, like also Sara said, should align with the objectives of the EU. So first thing you can do is just to look at what the European Union wants to achieve in the coming years. So the green transition is for sure a very strong topic. And given that you are also interested in wind tunnel or wind related scientific topics, so I think you already naturally fall within this category. So the green transition, it's your strong point, typically. But there are also others. Okay, so in my case was also, for instance, that, but also in combination with the noise production and mitigation, right? So the structure of your proposal should be logical. What does it mean? So try to address these questions. Why do you do that? How do you do that? And what do you gain from doing this project? So, and another key advice is try to use the paragraphing in a way to convey also the structure of your thinking. So typically chaos or disorder doesn't get a good impression in the examiner, in the assessment process. So try to explain things in a very structured way. This is more important than giving all the information. Give the key information in a clear and structured way. This is for the organization. When it comes to the style, try to use short sentences. Try to be clear and to the point. Okay. and do not propose too much work. Try to come up with really with the key, with the niche problem, not with the many problems, but just one very important, and that has not been tackled or not sufficiently tackled, or not with the methodology that you want to propose. So not propose too much, also because you consider you have 24 months, and if you want to do something experimental, experiments take time, right? I come from an experimental background, and I can tell you experiments, maybe I'm partial on this, but experiments take longer than simulations. So if you want to propose something experimental, try to really focus on a few things that you want to look at, and have clear in mind what are these and why. So use an appropriate lexicon. So there are also, especially in certain key aspects of your proposal, there are some there is a lexicon, and there are key expressions that are paradigmatic, and you just have to use them. Okay, so for instance, experimental skills, you can say hands-on skills, or other skills that you want to gain from your project. Those are called transferable skills, or transferable through research, or transferable through other ways. But in this particular case, so if we talk about the lexicon, there are expressions to use, and for that the Ufficio Bandi or the Valorization Center can really help you a lot, because other proposals have used them before, and it's normal. But these do not belong yet to your background. So I know, I also, when I started, was not familiar with those expressions, but you have to familiarize with them and use them in your proposal, because this is what the person that is gonna assess your proposal is gonna look like also. Yeah, and till the very end, also when you like what you wrote, keep having a critical eye on your proposal. So never say it's fantastic. No, this is when things go wrong. So try to always keep a critical eye. Keep looking at your proposal with a critical eye until the very end, and try not to, if you have still some opportunities, try to still modify it until the very end. And the pathway towards improvements is always available, so is always there to be taken, right? So in this case, do not limit yourself to what sounds good. Try to improve it also when you think what you have is quite satisfactory. Okay, so pathway towards writing, tip on content and style. So the next is try to put the outcome of your proposal in the right perspective. So in this assessment, in this survey, I will be very cynical. So in this case, so try not to undermine your ambition, and try to always remain with your feet on the ground. But this is information that you really need to know, and that you need to be aware of, and to take them in the right way. So first of all, the success rate is very low, so it's typically 15%. But this doesn't mean that you have to give up. So typically, 20–30% of the proposal are already of poor quality when they are submitted. So some people say, okay, I'm trying. Some people started at the very end of the time available, and they don't really come up with something strong. So you have to be already to come up with something strong, otherwise you immediately undermine your chances. But so you have to be aware that statistically you have a 15% of chances of success rate. Okay, and the proposal being strong is not a necessary condition. Is not only is only a necessary condition, but you need to also be aware that there are other criteria, and these are beyond your control. One of that is the strength of your curriculum. And yeah, this is part of your past. You cannot do much, unfortunately, or you can work on that for the following opportunities. The other is the prestige of your supervisor and the host institute. And the other is, another is the competitors. So who are the others? You don't know. So you don't know the quality of the other proposals, what the level will be. And there is a fourth criterion that is also going beyond your control, and is luck. So unfortunately, you maybe have somebody that is assessing your proposal and is tired, or is in that day is particularly negative. You cannot control this, right? So, and you have put 2 or 3 months of effort, and the person doesn't like what you wrote. There is nothing you can do. So you have to be lucky the next time. A professor that I had to collaborate with in my past said, grants are like lotteries. So as lottery, if you don't buy the lottery ticket, you never win. Okay, so it sounds trivial or a bit empty of meaning, but it's really true. So you have to put that in the right perspective and think that you are trying, you are buying a lottery ticket, you do your best. It's not only a lottery, of course. But like I said, luck is also important. But yeah, so you take part in a context, in a contest. So yeah, being part of it means that you have some chances. If you don't join, then the chances will be, of course, 0. And if you see yourself as an academic in the future, you have to be aware that writing proposal is, in any case, essential part of your work duties. Okay, so you have to work on them continuously. Typically, you write 1 or 2 proposals per year, at least. So in the future, be aware that you have to do that anyway if you want to become an academic. And last, don't be afraid of failure. If you fail, it's fine. That's the most probable outcome that you can have from a proposal like this, from a call like this, because 85% chances of failure is a very big figure, and yeah, so this is just what is normal. So this is what you can expect, even if you prepare something of very good quality and very strong. I didn't know about this seal of excellence. I received it for the first proposal, but to me it wasn't particularly useful. But certainly it can be useful for. I didn't know about these internal calls in Italy. So apparently it can be also useful, the seal of excellence. So in that case, writing something strong that gets the seal of excellence is also somehow winning. Okay, after this set of advice or personal experience that I shared, I want to go through the assessment of my 2 proposals and share with you the feedback I received. So for the first one, I scored 86.8. And like I said, I was in the first 30%, or maybe even actually better, 25. I can't remember exactly. But the second one went much better, so I scored 97%, and it got awarded. It was in the top 4%. I can tell you also from experience, because I also want to share experience from other people that, of course, I keep anonymous. I had a colleague that wrote 2 proposals, one after the other, and the second one received a lower grade than the first one. So it's not necessarily true that you improve with experience. It depends on many other things, but in my case, I can tell you it was true. So this is the general grade, these two. Then I go through the survey of the three different criteria. So excellence, impact, and implementation. So like Sara said, excellence weights for 50%. So if you score very well in the excellence, you are already close to get it. So excellence. The first one got the first grant that I put in 16 got a 4.3. So let's see the strengths were the quality of the supervision, the expertise of the supervisor, clarity, ambitious. The project was ambitious. The methodology is adequate. State of the art, generally well presented. Capacity convincingly addressed of the researcher. Track record also. Let's see the weaknesses. So I didn't, and I have to admit, I could have put much more effort in it. I could have worked more on the transfer of knowledge to the beneficiary, okay? So how the training would have been articulated. I didn't do that enough. So the soft skills and transferable skills, and how I would be integrated in the research team. So what do I gain in terms of that? That was the weaknesses. So in the second one, I got a 5. So everything was appreciated. Supervisor, leading expert, researcher, because meanwhile, I also publish more. So researcher has an excellent track record. Supervisor is a leading expert. The group, I articulated much better the integration within the group, and also mentioning other academics with whom I could collaborate and who could have helped me with what and these things. Yeah, state of the art. Okay, so basically everything was fantastic. Apparently the guy liked it and it was a 5. So impact, the first one I scored quite well also, 4.7. Possibly if I scored for everything 4.7 I could have got, but that didn't happen. So the weakness was the dissemination strategy was lacking of details. So I should have articulated better the dissemination. So probably what I did back then, if I remember, was I just mentioned papers and journal papers that I would have published, and that was pretty much it. Whereas in the other one, which I can see here, I also actually I got a better score in the first than in the second in this one. Yeah, so yeah, apparently I had some weaknesses in the communication of project activities to the audience, and I didn't explain sufficiently who was the general public. Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of impressions, and also, so in this case, you try to really tick a lot of boxes. So particularly the benefit, the improvement of your career, where you want to go, what you want to achieve, how you want to reach people, talk about possible patents already here, talk about conferences, already explain which conferences you're gonna go. So show that you have a plan and a clear one, and you already know who is your host. So what are the activities that are put in place by your host? Okay, and then implementation. In the first one, I could have done much better because I scored very poorly, so 4.2. The list of the deliverables is not properly elaborated, and so there are shortcomings. The management is not sufficiently described, and the monitoring also. Whereas in the last proposal, so the one from 19, the location of man months is not fully substantiated, but for the rest, it was quite clear and convincing. Okay, so also because the meeting is finishing, I close here.